but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, the three Amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your start to the Premier League season with Newcastle United. Great to have it back. Football is back tonight. Burnley against Manchester City. Of course, we don't have long to wait. Tomorrow evening, 5:30, Newcastle taking on Aston Villa at home, which, of course, we will be coming to later in the show. But as always, this is your platform to ping us some questions. We'll see if we can answer them either in a nice way or in a ripping them apart way, but always with a bit of thought, always with a bit of decorum, and always with a bit of humour as well. So great to welcome George, Steve, and Mitch. Hi, lads.
Hi, Steve. Hi, everybody.
Good to see you. Terry Armstrong was quick in this morning on Facebook, and he said, question for the lads tonight. The first time in what seems like years, the ticket points have dropped under 40 for an away game. I've got 39 points, so I can finally apply for Man City away. Do you think this new policy of digital tickets is finally going to stop people buying tickets simply to get the points and passing the paper ticket to someone else? I hope so, because I might get to some away games this season. Interesting as well, in a WhatsApp group I'm in, just a reassurance about the away ticket check, because a lot of people are saying how they're going to do this. The club are pushing this, and they say for away matches, we will be carrying out spot checks at turnstiles to ensure tickets are being legitimately used within the terms and conditions that underpin our long-established loyalty point scheme. They thank NUFC. Now, I'm not sure where this has come from. This has come from a WhatsApp group I'm in, and I need to clarify. But we thank NUFC for its support in ensuring we tackle ticket touting and protect those, including many of your members who have put so much into following the team away from home over the years. So this must be maybe a direct message to NUFC. When travelling to away matches, we simply ask travel groups to organise the distribution of tickets well in advance of reaching the stadium so that each individual has their respective ticket to hand for inspection. So not really going in on tickets tonight. So anyone in the chat that goes, oh God, not tickets. It's really just about the loyalty points, George, that I'm interested in. I watched with interest as the loyalty points have dropped, and it will give people an opportunity to go. It'll be interesting to see the age demographic of people who were actually at the game for me.
Well, and me, because as Neil knows, my grandson, his stepson, is a regular away fan. I think it's great. It sounds nice, but there isn't a system yet being devised that somebody hasn't tried to get round, over the top, underneath, whatever. And I suspect that this will be another system that people will find a way of getting past. Sad to say, it's the way of the world now, I think. And but it's a good attempt. All I'd say is, I think it's a good attempt. And if it is an opportunity to get more people to go and spread the fan base to go to away, well, I'm all for that. I think that's great. But as I say, at the end of the day, there'll already be people out there who are having a look at what it means and how do you do it and how to get around it. And so I'm afraid some of them will succeed. But the basic premise for me is a good one. Like you, Steve, I want to see more people going away. I'd like to see the demographic changing. I mean, I like to see what our Joss and his mates do. I think it's great for the club, great for the fans. But at the end of the day, it's a system, and people will try and beat systems, I'm afraid.
Steve, it's always going to be interesting to see, how the club changed things, and ticketing was always going to be one which they had to tackle at some point. The away tickets, though, is very interesting, and it hasn't gone unnoticed. Still 800 tickets left at the last count. Usually away tickets sell out very quickly because people just get in, they buy the ticket. A lot of people just buy tickets and give them away. So, it did happen. That's not going to be able to happen anymore. So it is going to change how many go. And I've often wondered, how so many youngsters get to the games, and have the points to go to these away games. And maybe we might find there's a lot more older fans at the match.
We may well do, Steve. Who knows? This is one of the conundrums I think that the clubs been wrestling with for a while. It's certainly been a bone of contention with those fans who haven't been able to get on the ladder, if you like. And I understand the sort of discussions that have taken place with fans who have been travelling away for years who don't think there's an issue. And quite rightly, they've built their points up over a period of time. Some of them will have built the points up legitimately. Some perhaps, maybe the odd occasion picked up a ticket and then passed it on to somebody else, not on themselves, but still collected the point. But yeah, when it's worked like that, I don't think it's been much of a problem. I think the big problems come with what appear to be banks of tickets that were becoming available that people were exploiting. And you hear all sorts of tales of people who using the friends and family to collect 15 and 20 tickets, and if not more, and then distributing them among friends, etc. And other people who had no intention of going to away games, but just handing over their membership number to allow individuals to basically bid on their behalf. I think it's a bit of a throwback to the days of people who were desperate to get to Sunderland to see the game. That's where the time when Mitch and I discussed it at length with various people within the club, and it was a bone of contention then, and we're going back to 2009, 2010, 2011. That was the only bugbear that people had. They couldn't get to see we're playing Sunderland. They couldn't get to Sunderland. And it became obvious that people were collecting points purely for that purpose. So they were buying umpteen tickets, selling them on, and within a season they'd collected 19 points, and then they were up to 38. And it was all in the hope that they would go to maybe that one game. Maybe it's the second game if Borough managed to claw themselves into the same league as us. It's become a little bit more serious now, but it looks like the club could well have found an answer. The very fact that the electronic ticketing system is going to make it difficult to pass the tickets on. But I'm sure, as George said, there'll be ways and means. I was interested when George said, "I look forward to seeing what Josh and his mates get up to." Don't look too close, is what I would say sometimes.
I'll not be forwarding any other WhatsApps, that's for sure.
Exactly. Some of the conversations that we've had, probably, for a late night show rather than for a 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But the kids, they enjoy themselves when they go away. We know that. It's just that I think there were often occasions. And I remember Northumbria Police at a number of the policing meetings that they held back in 2013, 14 and 15, where, we're going to the Stadium of Light, and some of the concerns they had at the time about the way the buses were being controlled. I think, I'd like to think that those people who are running the buses now are a lot more sensible and a lot more aware of the issues that can crop up. And I think there's also the worry for those who are organising buses that the clubs put a lot of faith in them, and if it doesn't carry on, if that faith isn't passed on and there are issues that ensue, then you might suddenly find that the club's not that forthcoming, and we could rue the day when the issue suddenly arises where the club turns around perhaps and says, what, away travel is also going to have to be with our coaches. Who knows where it might lead? So fans have just got to be happy that at the moment they're getting the opportunity to go, be sensible, enjoy the games, and let's see how it pans out over the season, Steve. And I think social media will tell us very, very quickly. First of all, the points drop, and then people saying that they've been to a game for the first time in God knows how long. So it's going to be an interesting time.
Okay, Mitch, your take on this loyalty points dropping, and Terry Armstrong's happy.
Good.
Yeah, Mitch, what's your thoughts?
I think Steve's pretty much hit the nail on the head. It all started way back when everybody wanted a ticket to go to Sunderland. And that's when the holding the points started. I personally am not aware of anybody who's ever made any money off a fellow fan who's passed ticket on. They've always been passed on at face value. However, it does seem to have become a perceived problem, and the club have found what looks like could be the solution by the way the points are dropping. Shout out, by the way, to the person in one of the ticketing meetings who vehemently told Darren Eales that the problem with the loyalty points was that the people who go all the time get all the tickets. So what you mean? So the problem with the loyalty-based point system is loyalty.
Yeah.
Apparently.
That's like a Monty Python sketch.
Yeah.
You know, but I get the point, kind of. And certainly the dropping of the numbers is, I would read as something significant. So let's see how it goes. Let's make sure everybody can go in. And that side of the electronic ticketing goes well. It's something that is... It got to the point with the loyalty points whereby something had to give. We had to tweak it in some way. What worries me is that the loyalty points have dropped so much. Was there really that many people continuing to hoard and get points and pass tickets en masse? If that's the case, that's much more of a significant problem than I realised it was. Everybody who's getting the chance to go, who feel like they missed out on chances to go, make a bloody racket, be part of the noise, be part of the atmosphere that you've seen created, and make yourselves heard, and do what we always do when we go away and have a good time. It's always a good weekend with a football problem in the middle of it. and so go and enjoy yourselves and grasp your opportunities and represent well. Because there's tell you what, there'll be 120 odd in Brooklyn Barn in Dubai tomorrow that'll be wishing they were at home, and then when we go away to Man City, we'll be wishing they were at Man City. And it's from an expat point of view, to be part of that is always on your mind, that you'd love to be in the middle of it all. And so and let's hope it all works and everybody's happy as a result of it, and they found the panacea for all ills.
Yeah, okay. Interesting stuff coming in about transfers today. I mean, I've watched it with interest. Harry Kane, will he, won't he go to Bayern, has now transpired that he's on a plane there, in the next couple of hours to go and sign the deal. So that looks like that's done. Casado, interesting. Liverpool agree a financial transfer deal break the British record in fact, and then Casado does a U-turn on a medical and says he only wants to sign for Chelsea. In amongst all this, Luke Bailey says thoughts on Liverpool bidding over 100 million for Casado. Klopp said the day Liverpool paid 100 million for a player is the day that he would retire. And in other news, George, Les points out the Klopp also said that if Saudi money came into the club, he'd walk away. That hasn't aged well either.
Yeah,
and I guess we'll go over a hat trick on Jurgen, because John Askew says, "Very good evening, everyone. Jurgen once said we didn't have a ceiling. Liverpool have made a £111 million bid for Casado. Apparently, who's kidding who? And does such a mammoth bid raise questions about the money that they're going to spend? So, what's your thoughts on all of that, George? It's starting to bite Mr. Hamstring in the backside a little bit.
Well, and it was inevitable, because he has so much to say about everything, and he's so Germanic and demanding about it all. That he is right. There's no questioning the man. Well, that inevitably ends up with being a Humpty Dumpty and falling off the wall, and it certainly has this week. And as to the fees being talked about, the lad from Brighton, are you telling me that he's twice as good as Bruno, twice as good as Tonali, twice as good as Joe Linton? No, I'm sorry. Forget it. I mean, he's not just breaking records. He's going back on all of the things he used to hold high in football, in my mind, was that he used to pay for the value for what he got, and this isn't value. This is just one-upmanship, you know, in my view. And it wouldn't surprise me after this close season, and if we get into the season, in the first few games it doesn't go right, that Mr. Klopp finds another club, because he's just over the top all the time, in my opinion. But he's just taken it a little bit further this time, from over the top to just balmy almost, and in every direction. So it's been coming his way, I'm afraid. There's little doubt about that, and he's now reaping what he sowed.
Interesting, isn't it, Steve? You know, you've always got to be careful what you say, especially when you're in such a high-profile position as Jurgen Klopp, because ultimately things will come back and bite you on the backside, and this certainly has, hasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, Klopp is the holier-than-now manager, isn't he, of the Premier League? You know, he's German, so we presume that he's always with the fans. He's you know, the German model. This is the way to go. He's played that line. He's played the old, you know, we're a martyr, where we do everything right, everybody else is wrong. He's complained about timing, and I'm sure that's another topic that we'll cover later on. But yeah, he comes out, he starts shouting about Saudi money, which we've saw in anyone who's seen the documentary. I'm 20 minutes into it, so I'll not dwell on it. But you know, anyone who's seen it, because we all heard it anyway, you know, griping about Saudi money, griping about how we are now gonna basically destroy football because of the money that we'll be able to spend, etc., etc. And then next thing you know, he's going out bidding 100 odd million, or his club's bidding 100 odd million. He's not going to turn around and say, I don't want the player. It's ironic that the players turn around and say, I don't want to play for him. I want to play for Chelsea. You know, I mean, let's face it, we know Caicedo has been tapped up. There's something going on between Brighton and Chelsea for a while now. You know, ever since they took the manager, and then they've taken various other people. I think they've taken the goalkeeper because he was unhappy at Brighton. You know, that there seems to be a connection there, bit like there was with Liverpool and Southampton in the past, where, you know, for a long period of time, Klopp would only buy players from Southampton. But yeah, it's just typical. It's typical of a manager who forgets what he said, and there's plenty of them do. You know, I mean, we've seen it, you know, time and time again, where a manager then gets caught out 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks later after he said something. He claimed that he had said that it was 7 years ago with something that he was quoted on, and it turned out to be less than a year. You know, that's the sort of bloke he is. He plays to the mentality of the Liverpool fans. He plays to the politics of the Liverpool fans, and that's fine. But when he then rams it down everybody else's throat, then it does become a little bit of a, you know, a bugbear, if you like, to fans the likes of myself, because it turns out it makes them like a laughingstock. And we'll read when George said, "Is Bruno only worth half that money?" No, he's worth twice that money, George. That's the thing. So if anyone wants to come, they're going to have to bid 200 million, 210 million pounds for Bruno, and 210 million for Tonoli, and 210 million for Joe Linton. Not half, twice as much. Let's get that message out to the rest of the Premier League and to the rest of Europe. Don't come looking for our players, because you're not getting them. You know, they're here for long term. They're here for the build.
The glass half full, glass half empty, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, Mitch, Klopp's been a bit of a pain in our backside, hasn't he? Never mind the pain in everyone else's, and he just runs his mouth off at times.
Well, and like one of the Caicedo situation fascinates us, and like one of the lads on Twitter who tweets a Sporting Minute said it's the most unlike Liverpool transfer saga he's ever come across, and he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
They've obviously not cleared with the player or the agent that he's quite happy to come. They've gone straight to Brighton, gone, there's a wad of cash, come we'll have your player. And the players turn around and go, I don't want to come to you, I want to go to Chelsea, thanks. How embarrassing. How embarrassing for Liverpool as a club. but also Klopp. And I dare the press, anybody in the press out there, call him out.
Yeah.
He's a hypocrite. And he needs calling out. To say he didn't want Saudi money, and yet he's opened the coffers richly to get rid of the players he deemed surplus to his requirements this season, and got a pretty penny for them. In a season where they've had significant borrowing, which is going to affect their FFP down the line. So that's allowed them to release their FFP a little bit, to then turn around and make, £100 million bid for a player, which you said, Mr. Klopp, if you your club made a bid like that, you would retire. So where's your retirement notice? Why are you still sitting behind that desk talking to us, the press? I dare anybody in the press to call him out, and they won't. Because it's Liverpool. Because it's him.
Yeah.
That's chicken. You're all chicken. You'll absolutely suck up to certain clubs and fluff them and keep them happy because you think that's the status quo and how it should be. And while we're disrupting it and we're upsetting them and we're the focus of his ire, he says we have no ceiling when he's got a net spend of 152 million already this summer. Get knotted. You hypocrite. You absolute hypocrite. And nobody in the press will have the balls to call him out, and they should. And every one of them should be calling him out at every press conference until they get an acceptable answer from him. Because he can't go around chucking allegations around left, right and centre about other clubs that he has no idea how the business is done. And yet he's quite happy to use a situation to make himself look hard done by. Hypocrite. And that's all you are, Mr. Klopp.
There we go. Straight talking as usual from Mitch as we get into the first Amigos of the season, and obviously going to be looking ahead to the Aston Villa game a little bit later. Day I Met is our first segment. Stick your fingers in your ears if you don't like the music. If you love it, embrace it. The Day I Met, where we ask you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. David Cook's a regular in the chat, and it was great to see David got to the match. And not only did he try and take a selfie while he was waving a flag, good effort, David. It's there. We can see the flag. Very good. He did want to submit this to the Day I Met.
Oh, very
well,
good.
It's
Brilliant.
the first time able to get back to St James's Park since 2016. Great, but a long day. And it was the Day I Met Big Dan Burn.
Brilliant.
David,
Apologies to Dave, by the way, for not catching up with him at the food bank on Saturday. I'm afraid work commitments got the better of me on Saturday. But next time, Dave, next time you're down, hopefully you can pick up a ticket and we'll see you again. And you don't have to wait for another, 27 years to get back into St James's Park.
I was just going to say, Steve, that Dave is sometimes quite handy when I'm short of something for those were the days.
Yeah. Yes, he's been fantastic. Well done, Dave. Great to see you. Photographs, and we will meet at some point. Look forward to it. Get your photos in if you want to feature on the Day I Met. Just looking at the Manchester City game at the moment, 30 points now needed for tickets. Still 700 tickets left. Wow. That tells you how many people are getting loyalty points on a regular basis off the back of away games. And just for anyone thinking about going to Brighton, you might have to use Al Walid Travel. Train strikes been announced on the day of the Brighton game. So anyone who's got plans and hotels booked, you may want to go and reconsider. Two train strikes announced, and Brighton away is one of them, just so everybody knows.
I'm just going to say, Steve, wouldn't it be funny if Chelsea managed to get Caicedo deal over the line tonight and he plays on Sunday against Liverpool?
I never realised that. What a proper slap in the face that would be to Clippity Club, wouldn't it? That would really, really would be. JB says Liverpool tried for Caicedo to get back at Chelsea over Lavia, but have been made to look mugs. NUFC and Villa are going to break the cartel and do it hard, says Trolls. I hope you're okay, Trolls, after the ASM situation. Malcolm still going on about him last night, but that was only because somebody prompted him in the chat. Tom says he's not a hypocrite, Mitch. He's a narcissist too. He's not just a hypocrite, which is
he probably is. Yeah, kind of tendency.
And Klopp's the cat's buyer of managers, says Trolls. Sydney says, say what you mean, Mitch. And well said, Mitch, says John Spence. Fantastic. Okay, moving on swiftly. John Robson says, question for tonight. Will the Saudi League be a genuine challenge to UEFA and Premier League, or is it an expensive attempt to get those leagues to relax financial fair play, or something else like golf? George, what's your thoughts? I've just recorded a Premier League show because I'm having a week off next week. So there's going to be plenty of shows on the channel, one each night, as always. But I recorded the Premier League show with Melly Barnes yesterday, and this is one of the things we discussed. What's your thoughts on the Saudi League, George? Is it going to be like the Chinese League? Is it going to be like the MLS? Is it going to be like, these kind of leagues that start with signing lots of players, or is it going to be bigger and better? And will it challenge the Premier League?
No, because they're buying players that are still active. The Chinese League and the other leagues flop because they bought people on the way out. They're not just buying people on the way out. They're buying. San Maximum's got a full career ahead of him, and have one or two of the others that have gone there. So it's quite a different kettle of fish to the other things. It may be an attempt to push the UEFA and us and others into looking at the arrangements for financial fair play. I don't know, but I just get a feeling that and my little experience I've had with working with Saudi people is when they say we're going to do this, that's what they do. I mean, look at the golf. Everybody thought that was a 9-day wonder until they just went in and negotiated the hell out of it, with our chairman and Amanda right in the thick of it, doing the negotiating. No, I think that there's a serious league there, not like the Chinese League or other leagues that, as I say, bought people who are on the twilight of their career. They're taking people who are at the, if not the top, certainly nearly the peak. I mean, if Mitrovic goes, and it looks like he might still, he's not going to just last a year or two. He's got a whole career ahead of him, and so one or two others. No, it'll be a different kettle of fish to the other leagues. And I think if it is just a stalking horse to push UEFA and all the others into looking at financial fair play and that sort of thing, well, so be it. But my gut feeling says that when these people say we're going to do this, they do that, and woe betide anybody that gets in the way.
Yeah, Steve, the Saudi League, I mean, it's, they are signing some big name players, but you've got to go a long way to eclipse the Premier League.
Oh, absolutely. You do. And you have to go a long way to eclipse some of the European leagues as well. And you could argue that it's strategic. You could argue. I think Saudi want football to be successful in their country because they want to show that they have a competitive league. I think they want to be seen to be supporting football, among many other sports, by the way, because I do think that they're looking, as somebody put on the strap line earlier there, looking towards a World Cup bid. It's how UEFA and FIFA react that interests me. Somebody said there, will this have an impact and will it blow FFP wide open? Quite possibly. It could well be that they react in a way that says, you know what, they are a threat, and that's when we'll know if UEFA, for example, suddenly decide to alter FFP, change it somewhat, which could well open the gates for us, and make it more favourable, then great in that respect. But if they do that, they'll only be doing it because they see it as a threat to the current status quo that's in place, because it's those top clubs that are losing players. I did hear a whisper the other day of the possibility that in the not too distant future, some new clubs may appear in Saudi. There are business people looking now to start either taking over clubs in Saudi Arabia or forming their own clubs in Saudi Arabia to compete. And that will be an interesting little thing to see how that pans out, because those people are looking worldwide for top players as well, because they say, right, well, if PIF can do it, there's no reason why we can't compete as well. And it'll be Middle Eastern money that comes into the league. But it's also be interesting to see how the profile of the what can only be described as the Asian Champions League, a league that's won invariably by teams from Saudi
Arabia. Champions League, mate.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll talk a little bit about that.
Exactly. And that is a growth area, and it's a growth area that in terms of something that we've never seen before. The broadcasting rights is an interesting one. I saw some people saying I'll probably never watch the games. I'm not interested, but I think a lot of fans will be interested, especially in the Middle East and beyond. It'd be interesting to see how it impacts time-wise on American schedules. There's an awful lot that has now been thrown into the mix, and it's going to be interesting. Somebody's shaking that pot at the moment. It's like they've put God knows how many of Mitch's dice in a jar, and they're shaking them and they're gradually throwing them out and seeing them where they land. I think it's going to be a fascinating next 12 to 18 months to see how it pans out and how it develops. See who else goes to those leagues. I know we'll get slagged off because we'll go to Saudi Arabia in January, where we'll play one of those 4 PIF teams in friendly, and then people will start shouting, saying, "Oh, look, it's Newcastle United exploiting the situation," and this type of thing. But I tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if we weren't the only ones who went in the January closed window and did some warm weather training and some slooching and smooching with some of the Saudi clubs in terms of raising their profile as well. Because if Newcastle United is raising their own profile, then you can guarantee the other clubs sitting at the top of that Premier League and slightly below us, we want a little bit of slice of that pie. They've already received it in terms of transfer fees from players. Chelsea have received a nice big wad. Liverpool received a nice big wad, and so it carries on. I think it's a fascinating time. Is it like the Live Golf? Are they trying to do something else? Not. I think it's more strategic. I think the golf was a reaction and then an opportunity. I think this is more strategic in terms of football in Saudi Arabia, football in the Middle East, and the end game of a World Cup in Saudi.
Mitch, your thoughts on this Saudi League?
Every time I look at it, I see a different angle.
Yeah,
I see them coming at it like a disruption to possibly try and put a little pressure on UEFA in the Premier League to ease FFP, to say, look what we can do. We've got enough money to do this. So would you like some of this money coming into your league? I bet you would. So that's one angle. You have to look at the regional politics again, the regional football politics.
Yeah.
The Asian Conference, the Asian Champions League used to traditionally flip and flop between teams like Al Hilal in Saudi, Al Ahly in UAE, and a couple of the Iranian teams like Persepolis. And then the next year it will be one of the J League or the Korean A League teams. And they saw the Korean and Japanese leagues very much as the challenge within the Asian Champions League. Well, bringing the players they're bringing into Saudi now blow them away. You also have to remember they've seen Doha host a World Cup. Whether you feel that was very successful or not, I think depends on your point of view. But I'm damn sure they'll be thinking we can do this better. However, to secure the votes, they need to have support throughout the whole Asian Football Conference. And what better way than trying to be the shining light of the Asian Football Conference and say, look at this league that we've created and look at the players we're attracting to our league. And it's kickstarting some of the other leagues. There's players starting to go to the Qatar Stars League. Andres Iniesta's just signed for my former local club, Emirates Club in Ras Al Khaimah, would you believe? So he's over here now. And there's quite a few of the Spanish older players have homes and businesses, and La Liga has a base here in Sports City, not far from Chelsea Rob's place, funny enough. And so there's a lot of interest in the region, and you might see it kickstart elsewhere, but Saudi are very much positioning themselves to be the big dogs in the Asian Football Conference, and that's with one aim in mind: getting a World Cup.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it, and so I think there's a lot of different potential angles here. Not all of them are connected to Newcastle United, but some of them are. I do see them using their spending power as here's all the shiny things. Would you like some of the shiny things? Well, let us spend our money in our league the way we want to spend it, please. Then you guys get some of the shiny things. And we'll still have more shiny things than you. But we're sharing the shiny things around. And it's a power play in that respect, I think. But I do think it's a war not just on one front with one aim in mind. It's about making Saudi Arabia the talk of global football.
Mm-hmm. And that's certainly what it is at the moment. Everyone's talking about it. So, yeah. Tommy, good evening. He says, what was customer service at Newcastle United? Supporter services, it's called. You can find anything you need to know about that on the website. Supporter services at nufc.co.uk. Okay, I have posted a little link in the chat as well. Some of you will have seen it. We've just done a backup channel. There is some different things on the NUFC Matters backup channel. There's a few of the very first shows that I did with Mitch and with Steve on Instagram. I found them back in the day. I've also put some footage up there, some Newcastle United 80s and 90s footage. So if you want to click on the link and subscribe, it's free. We won't be broadcasting on there, although I am tonight, just to test it out. But from our perspective, get yourself on there. Just give it a sub. Cost you nothing to do that. And enjoy some of the content we've stuck up. There's some fantastic stuff on there. Okay, question. This is usually Wednesday night. Question for George. Do you know any of the history of the swimming pool underneath the floor of the old stand kit room, says Posey Street Henderson?
Well, yeah, but it wasn't a swimming pool. It was just a bloody big bath. Which is just a big tile bath when they just tied everybody in. It was never a swimming pool, not to my knowledge. But I remember going in with everybody else. It was just a big white tile bath where everybody got bathed together. Nothing fancy about it. And yes, it was in the old stand. It was right next to the boot room and the boiler room and the laundry room, because there used to have ladies who did the strips in those days, who washed the strips and ironed the strips, and it was amazing. But Yeah, it was never a swimming pool to my knowledge, but it was big enough to swim in when it was full, that's for sure. But it was just a big white-tail bath, as far as I know.
There we go. There's your answer. I'm not going to do the music. It's not Wednesday. It's not fair. Couple of questions. Obviously, lots about the documentary. Good evening, everyone. What a great first episode of the Amazon documentary. Thoroughly enjoyable and fascinating, says Tom. And there was another one, I'm sure. Tim, yeah, what's your thoughts on the documentary? I thought it was tremendous. I've heard mixed reports. It's on my to-do list this weekend, so it's a bit unfair if you haven't watched it to give a critique. I have, though, read Craig Hope's critique, and I can quite happily discuss that, because I did send it to the lads in the WhatsApp group to have a read and see what they thought. Craig Hope, I wouldn't say he was overly critical. I think he just gave an opinion as he saw it. He felt that it was a bit more staged than he was expecting. He thinks that it was, it could have been more warts and all than it actually was. And it's difficult to comment when you've only seen 2 episodes out of the 4. So for Craig, it was also, he felt, an opportunity for the club to lay their true feelings on the line about Saudi ownership. But
oh God,
that again, is always going to rear its head. He just felt that, the way that the owner, the chairman, was coming across, it wasn't genuine. I think that's what more or less Craig was trying to say. He just felt it was more contrived. It was more staged than it could have been. Although it wasn't a great review. I'm going to watch it. I won't go off anybody's reviews. You can read one review which says something's terrible. You can read another review which says something's brilliant. The truth tends to be somewhere in the middle. From my perspective, I'll wait and see what I think of it. I do know my dad made an appearance on the first one,
He did.
and I know that there was one or two other people I've heard who've appeared on it, which is great. But George, I'm not sure whether you'll have had time to watch it in and out of hospital, etc. But overall, I
haven't even had the bloody eyes to watch it. Never mind anything.
Exactly.
But what you just said about Hope goes back to the agenda, doesn't it? The press agenda. That says more about Craig Hope than it does about Newcastle United or the chairman, anything else. Anybody listen to what that man said after we finished that season, who want to come out and say that was a genuine feeling, a genuine heartfelt wish to do good for Newcastle United? Well, you need to rattle their head a bit, because it was lovely. And Geordies aren't fools. The one thing I say about the Geordie nation, if they get taken, they'll only get taken once. They get taken a second time. And at the moment, everything that's coming out of St James's Park, apart from one issue which we're going to talk about tonight, has been tremendously well received. And as somebody who's been going for 70 odd years, it's almost the best time of my life. I put it as high as that. That's how high I put it. So the Craig Hope issue is a one which says more about him than it does about the football club or our owners. And as to regard as going back to the Saudi thing, well, I'm happy to discuss that with anybody. And I know most people would. I think what all of these people have missed is what Geordies are good at. We'll show them how to have a good time. And when they've seen how good it is, they'll start to do it like we do. We've got a chance to influence lots of things, including some of the things that happen in Saudi Arabia. And I'm serious about that. Look at how they've changed over the years. Look at how the place where O'Neill lives changed in the 13 years he's been there. Now, they're not giving people a chance. They're stuck. They're stuck with an agenda and they don't know how to get out of it. And everything about it's got to be criticised. As I say, I go back to the chairman. If anybody thinks that what that man said at the end wasn't sincere, they just need their head looking at. And his pride as well in wearing that jacket with the black and white striped lining. That really couldn't have been more Geordie if you tried. So no, I think that's more about Craig Hope than it is about the documentary.
I mean, Craig's a good lad. I've got to be honest. I do like him. I've known him for years. He's gone into the media quite heavily, though. He obviously writes, but he's on Sky quite a bit. He's got his own YouTube channel now. Craig Hope's a journalist. He's got an opinion. I don't agree with him. It was fabulous.
Yeah.
I love my club, and I know that the owners have got the club at heart in everything they're doing, says Nick. Steve, you've only watched 20 minutes. What was the...
Yeah.
You can still get a feel for a documentary after 20 minutes. What was your thoughts on the opening 20 minutes?
Technicolor. It was very, very colourful. I thought that in the first 20 minutes, I thought they laid the groundwork, if you like, for just letting us know that who the owners are. You know, the fact that there's a group of owners. It's not one company. The fact that Mr. Al-Ramayan is sitting at the chair in the chair, but as he said, if you think that I am running this football club on a day-to-day basis, then you're going to be in for a sorry tale, because it's not. I think at one point he actually said, if I wanted to run this football club on a day-to-day basis, I would sack this lot. And they wouldn't be there. You know, this is what they're there for. These are the people running the club. It was interesting to hear the bit I saw with Darren Eales, where he did a little presentation where he was explaining his position on salaries and how salaries were dropping up and how you had to be very careful because of FFP and the fact that you had to live within your means. And that was something. Now, bearing in mind that I would imagine that little bit was probably not long after Darren Eales started. So probably, you know, as he said on his radio appearance last night, he came in on the 22nd of August last year. So sometime not far off from that, he was there talking and explaining and trying to get over the point. It did also, you know, move into the Anthony Gordon scenario of purchasing Anthony Gordon and how they went about it and how they thought they were being, you know, and I think a few of them mentioned there was this Newcastle United premium out there among clubs that were expecting us to pay if we wanted to buy some of their players. Thought that was interesting. I know where Craig's coming from, because on a number of occasions in that first 20 minutes, they did emphasize Saudi Arabia, the public investment fund of Saudi Arabia. Alan Shearer repeated himself at one point after about 15 minutes, where in the first 5 minutes, he talked about Newcastle United being the richest club in the world. And then 10 minutes later, he reminded us that we're the richest club in the world. And I'm thinking, well, we're not actually. We're not the richest club in the world. We're owned by a public investment fund that is one of the richest in the world. So there was those little things, and I think maybe that possibly irked Craig, and I could understand it did sort of irk me. I don't want us to be concentrating on who the owner is and who owns 80% and who owns 10%. And who owns 10. I'd like to hear their opinion on where they think the football club's going, but I don't necessarily need to be reminded, because let's face it, on this panel, we've known who was going to own it and who owned Newcastle United since, as you say, that little slot where they're sitting in the ground watching the Liverpool game, Steve, and there's your dad and there's your brother, and maybe if I'd had a wider screen, I might have caught you in the edge as well, but I don't.
I was playing a game of hide and seek that day, I tell you.
I can guarantee you. I also add that there's a very interesting scene. It's not spoiling it for anyone. It's a very interesting scene where there's two guys sitting in a pub. I think it's the Strawberry. I think it's the corner of the Strawberry. They're wearing black and white waistcoats and they've got hats on. And I went, no, I've seen those two old blokes before. And then I went, hang on a minute. That's my cousin Peter. So, apologies, Peter. I didn't recognise you.
Brilliant. Mitch, have you had time to see it?
Isn't in this region.
Okay, so, there we go.
However, we have asked the man that makes magic things appear in my little magic telly box if that can be enabled at some stage. So it'll probably once all 4 are out, I'll be able to binge watch it at some stage. Until then, I'll be stuck with me 256 interesting adult art channels to keep us entertained. But But however, it is worth pointing out yet again, coming back and back again to Saudi, and in some ways reflecting it on us as the supporters. It's sort of run its course now. I'm so very tired of it. We are not here to fix the world. And what still excites me is I have Saudi patients. And Stu will tell you this. He has Saudi clients.
Yep.
And they come and talk to us about our club. How is our club doing, Dr. Neil, when they come into surgery? And it makes me chest puff out. No, they're invested in it, and Stu gets the same. And the other thing that my dad's touched on, the pace of change in this region is phenomenal. And what people are crying out for is a generational change, but they want it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen. It's within a generation that we still had the death penalty in the UK. It's within a generation we were chemically castrating gay men in the UK.
Up till 1964, we're putting girls that got pregnant before 16 into asylums.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a generational change. And they're the kind of changes they want to see in Saudi in 5 minutes. And I can tell you, having been in the region for over 10 years now, it's changed hugely. It's changed a lot, even in the time since Steve Becker's been out here, probably too.
Yeah.
And I think you've seen change when you've come out, in the times you've come out. And so there are some things which are just never going to be perfect. And there are some things like rule of law, that you can't, nobody can impose their own laws on another country. That's not how it works. But as a country, Saudi is becoming more open. And as a country that willing to listen. Yes, there's a darker side of things, but there's a darker side of things in every country. Mm-hmm. And again, as football supporters, should we be responsible for that? You know, and I just wish we could just be allowed to enjoy the success we're tasting in the form that it's coming, because at the same time, great. You know, it has been. But it's. I just want to.
I wish.
I just want us to not be held in front and centre every time they want to talk about human rights. Can we talk about anybody who plays golf ever? Can we ask them their opinion on it now? You know, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
We could ask Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have an opinion on it.
The other thing is that in terms of our relationship with Saudi, some of the people who try to hit us hardest are very choosy on who they criticise, like Amnesty International, for example. Oh, get hold of Newcastle United, they're supporting the Saudis, etc., etc. Get Amnesty International to criticise Israel and what they're doing in Palestine. Get Amnesty International to even talk about that, and they won't. Why? Because a lot of their funding comes from that part of the world, so that they won't get involved in that. So it's all right having a high horse, but sooner or later you fall off it. And I've got to say, my support of Amnesty International has actually gone down since the start of the howl about Saudi. But as I say, get them to comment on what's happening in Israel. They run away, they go away.
It's interesting as well, Steve. As somebody said there, it showed that our owners are 100% committed. Now, you know, compare that to owners of other football clubs in the Premier League that get told, you know, they're the model club. Let's talk about the Liverpool owners who have hidden away in America for God knows how long. Let's talk about the Tottenham owner who has hidden in the Bahamas for the last 15 or 20 years. Let's talk about the Chelsea owner who was Abramovich, who had absolutely nothing to do with the football club, never spoke to fans, never got integrated into the football club. But we could go on and on. We could work our way all the way down. Our owners are 100% committed. Mr. Ron Ramayan is sitting there at the top of the tree, and he's got people in there that he trusts. He's got Amanda, he's got Mirdad, he's got Jamie Rubin, and he's got others. And he feels as though he's got a good team about him, a team that he can trust to make the right decisions. And that in itself is something that we, as a football club and as supporters, as fans, will benefit from immensely. So absolutely, they are 100% committed. And we'll see that commitment carry on and on over the next few years. And it's great that they're there at every game. And Jamie Rubins showed his commitment again this season by announcing that again he's going to match the donations that our superb fans make to the food bank on a match day. He's gonna match fund that again for the third season in a row. That's a commitment. That is a commitment to the community. It's a commitment from his foundation. They could take their money elsewhere if they wanted, but they see the benefit of what Newcastle fans are doing, and they, in a way, what they do when they match fund it, is they're saying to our fans, well done. What you're doing is great, and we support you in it. And it's supporting the community as well. So there's an awful lot going on that we should be grateful for. There's an awful lot we should be pleased about, and an awful lot we'll continue to be pleased about, while other football clubs start to suffer as owners start to think, hang on a minute, this is going to be expensive. This is not going to be the way that we want to go. Or the fans are going to get irritated because they're not buying the players that they want. They're not buying £150 million players because that's going to be the deal. I saw Liverpool fans who are already complaining that they've pulled out of the deal, or that Caicedo's pulled out of the deal, and this is ridiculous. Why aren't we? It's a complete reversal from what it was 3 days ago, and so it'll carry on. So good luck to them.
Okay, good.
Sorry, just going back to our own owners, that people skate over the fact that our owners, the ones who have the big face to the fans, are a diverse group anyway. Yes, there's Saudi Arabia in it, but there's also a woman, for God's sake, and it's a woman actually at the top of the tree with Saudi Arabians. That wouldn't have happened so long ago. She would never have got there. So she's there, and now you've got Arabs sitting down with a very prominent Jewish family. Well, how more diverse do you want than that? And I think it's just good.
Yep. Okay, halfway through the show, time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com or telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces handmade in Cumbria. You can order them from their website, mrvickys.co.uk, or by telephoning 01768 210 102. A big thanks also to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. They're an agile and dedicated workwear provider. Welcome back as well to United Travel. They are a UK coaches firm, and they are based in the Northeast. They've got 2024 tours, and you can contact them on 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Email info@unitedgrouptravel.com, and they've got a website which is unitedgrouptravel.com. There's no strangers on their tours, just people you haven't met yet. Big thanks to them for their sponsorship. Big thanks as well to Media Arts. and they supply all the video technology. If you want to become a member and get a cup, a pen, a membership card, and a scarf, then get your smartphone and put it over this QR code. It will take you straight to the membership pack. It's a £25 one-off fee. You can also go to NUFC Matters website and search membership pack to book today. If you want to help the channel, then subscribe to it by hitting the subscribe button. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video and click share to share to your other social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. Don't forget, we help the food bank on this channel. If you want to do so virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. The Alan Shearer raffle is back on. 150 tickets, £1 a ticket. Win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball. Enter today at nufcmatters.com.
Okay, time for Tweet of the Week. Starting off with one of those Star Wars ones that are like only a Star Wars fan will see it. Brilliant. I don't know, it's amazing. People must just see it and send it into that guy. No matter how still you have been, he's Ben Stiller.
Oh, dear.
Very good. They say cows are bad for the environment, but all they do is eat plants and fart. Kind of like vegans.
Oh, dear me.
While we're insulting people, my ex-wife sent me this T-shirt for my birthdays. It's nice. We parted as friends. It's something to do with sailing, I think. Bless her.
Oh, even I can see that one.
I asked for a tattoo with a bloke from the Jam. This doesn't look like Paul Weller to me.
It doesn't.
And mourners, read the dress code instructions on funeral invitations very carefully. Somber, whilst being only 2 letters away from sombrero, is a world apart in tone.
Thank you, Torquid.
And this one, house for rent, 5 minutes from the beach and 8 seconds if you fall.
Look at that.
Dear God.
This one, influential Christian pastor with no arms urges to stop porn.
Oh, dear.
And Leicester went mad, didn't they? 4 debuts on Sunday. Who stood out for you? The Mags guys suggested it was Harvey Barnes in the Cellar Cup.
Well done, guys.
I do like this subtle one from Ian Hull. Telekinesis. Telekinephews.
Oh, God.
Brilliant, Ian. And the neighbour tells me you're chasing people on a bicycle. He's lying. I don't even have a bicycle.
That's one of Ian's specials.
Anyone done one of these? When you finally make it home after holding it in for 12 hours. That's horrendous, by the way. Absolutely horrendous. I need to move on to the next picture, but I can't. Hold on. There we go. And this one, do you want to know if the baby's a boy or a girl? We're going to let the baby decide.
Oh.
I've made bad cakes, but never wrecked them like this one before.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, wow.
I'd still eat that, I'm afraid. Chocolate cake. I'm sorry I'm leaving you. I've been seeing someone else. How long? About 10 inches. But Bigfoot's often mistaken for Sasquatch, and yet he never complains.
Yeah.
Oh, Ian, man,
Yeah,
you're not
mate.
any better.
When I get mad at you, you never fight back. How do you control your anger? I clean the toilet. Well, how does that help? I use your toothbrush. I like the song once. Here's Ian. Rock the cat spa. Rock the cat spa.
Good old Joe. Good old Joe.
An apple pie.
Oh, look at that.
See what he's done there?
Ah.
Yeah.
No, I can't see that.
Oh, you can't say that one.
3.14159295.
Oh, all the way around, yes.
All
yes,
the way
yes,
around,
correct,
George.
yeah.
Recurring. Chip, I got a few this week. Exclusive SAFC sources indicate Tony Mowbray will be sacked after last night's defeat, and that NUFC assistant is their shock favourite to take over. Jason Tyndall's open to the move following Premier League rule changes that will reduce his profile. Loads of people jumped on that. And this one, the Black Middens have always been a lethal magnet for ships, but few know about the Viking longboat that was wrecked there in 794 after attempting to plunder Tynemouth and Jarrow. As the Viking savages were escaping the Tyne after being routed at Jarrow, they hit the rocks, the boat broke up, and many drowned. The locals waited for the tide to fall before going out to slaughter the rest. Paul Simo Simpson then said, well, it remained the biggest slaughter on Tyneside until 1,300 years later when Spurs came to St James's Park.
Oh, dear.
Colin McCormick says, just cost me £1. Yes, £1 pound to put air in my tyres. It used to be 20 pence. Suppose that's inflation for you.
Oh, dear.
That's it, Colin.
Couple of Bono jokes. East Midland Railway have taken the leaf out of Ryanair's books when it comes to window seats. And Ryanair just put, all right, Bono. And confirmed, Bono is the favourite to replace Courtois. Big loss for you too if he goes, says Karen.
Oh, God.
It's all fun and games until you realise it's not his finger on your lip.
I think he was.
Oh, dear.
And say what you see. The answer, of course, was holding down a job. And we've got a new slow cooker, lads.
Oh, God.
Okay, no need to brag. I own a lake from England.
Hey.
And here's somebody we can all get behind.
Hey.
And a new takeaway opens in Sunderland.
Oh, great.
And this one, Tesco have some good offers on at the moment, says Andrew. Plump, sweet, and begging for cream. Whose cat's that?
That's mine. Look, she's on her. She thinks she's coming in here. Look, say hello.
Coming on the show. Try to make hot dogs with ham. Nobody in my family's hungry anymore, said Stephen Kennedy. Dear me, how Stephen. Here's the cat making an appearance. And a family reveal, first photo of the world's tallest baby. And archaeologists confirm that new carvings discovered at Monk Wearmouth show a true insight into life in Roman Wearside. The spokesman for the RSPCA said that explains an awful lot.
Oh, dear.
Don't say we don't teach you something on NUFC matters as well. Did you know Bob the Builder and Jack the Ripper have the same middle name? And four of me toes watching the little toe take a coffee table leg to the face.
Oh my.
I've just seen a load of Greek lads out on a stag do, and I've christened them Jason and the Loggernotes, said Julian Lee.
Very
Loggernotes. Oh,
and a rare photo of a baby carrot clinging to its mother before being eaten by a heartless vegan. Stop this cruelty now. Vegans are getting hammering in the tweets this week.
Yeah,
the beginning of a new Star Wars film looks rubbish. Stop letting your dog shite here, you bastard. And squish an Easter bunny marshmallow and you get Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, that's brilliant, that.
David Cook, thanks for this one. Here's the fan zone in the 1970s. Keegan's Burgers and Hot Dogs. Where did they wash their hands? And how does the man in the moon get his hair cut, says Roger? He clips it.
Oh,
Jeez.
A cup here, which I think a few of us would like. Great birthday present. Have you ever seen them, lads?
Oh, yeah.
It's Alan Shearer with breasts, basically.
It was a Twitter account where you could have somebody draw a celebrity with tits.
There we go. There are three modes in the tunnel. The first one says I can smell sugar. The second one says I can smell cinnamon. The third one says I can smell molasses.
Oh.
And big breaths. They used to be.
oh.
Can you get this stain out of me dress? Come again? No, this time it's salad cream.
Oh,
Ka-ching, ka-ching.
oh, dear.
Married man drives 400 miles to meet Facebook woman, only to discover it's a hoax set up by football fan rivals.
Now it's classic. That's classic, that.
And can you spot the mistake? Thanks, guys. I mean, 100% lads. Brilliant, that one. Has anyone seen my eye patch? As the man walks out to see. Last few. Daft pick for next week's Amigos show, said Alan. Dude made me do a double take. It's actually shopping bag between his legs, not Buster Gonad from Viz. My uncle's left me a stately home in his will, says Stephen. I've no idea where Sodall is, but I'm delighted.
Going to be disappointed.
And with the new Barbie film, Wilma and Betty have finally decided to up their game from the Flintstones. Top 3. The Mackhams have just signed 3 strikers for the season: a train driver, a postman, and a nurse. And Stephen says, I was wondering why music was coming from my printer. Apparently the paper was jamming.
Oh, no.
The winner this week, Darren Eales. What a birthday treat. Only club in history to do the Diriyah Season Cup and Seller Cup double. Sweet dreams, and UFC fans. Only 6 weeks till the new season. Very good, very clever, very well marketed. But that is your tweets of the week this week. Thanks to Zara, as always, for sending in a big selection. Thanks to everybody else for tagging us in on Twitter. If you want to get one on the show, that's what you have to do. Mick was asking, have you got the Champions League badge, Steve, on your shirt?
No, it didn't come with no Champions League badge there. It just came with the noon. It was a Father's Day present, so that's why I got one that actually fits. And then, as you know, I've tried for the others, but every time we've been to the shop, I haven't got the size required. And I think it looks like there's going to be any for the foreseeable by all accounts. Every time, the number of people have stopped me and said, "Oh, you can get them from here, you can get them from there," and when you nip along these shops, there's nothing there. I meant to go and use the offer that came up last week, but I've never had a chance to go to town this week and have a look. So,
okay, Mitch, what's the status with Noon shirts? Did it ever get sorted? Says Barry.
They're still available on Noon via NUFC, but not through the official shop.
Okay, there we go. Yes, just shrug your shoulders. I mean, that's all you can do, isn't it? Anybody listening?
Nobody asked Darren Eales about the availability of kit on his appearance on BBC Radio Newcastle last night. I was surprised at that.
Steve, did you listen to it?
I did, yeah.
Okay, give us your views, because certainly would like to know what your views are on it.
Everything was a good question. That's not me. That was Darren Eales. Every question that was asked, he replied with, "That's a good question." I don't know if he was just thinking on his feet and pandering to the listeners who were ringing in. But yeah, I mean, he made, he mentioned, for example, on a question that came in about the stadium. And then enlarging it and making the stadium larger and bigger capacity. He mentioned that there was a feasibility study going on. He mentioned a lot of the key buzzwords, like whether we were stealing other people's light and things like that. He was very, very pro the electronic ticketing. He didn't get into the problems that people were encountering, just said, "I'm sorry to hear I had a problem, but hopefully everything's straightforward and it sounds like you've got sorted now." It wasn't put over, as we've been led to believe by some, that it was the Premier League that were pushing in, and it was to do with security and to do with knowing who's in the ground. It came over as very much a sort of a new thing. It's something that's happened in America. It's something that he's brought. It's obviously something that he likes. He likes that idea of electronic ticket, and he has it. He has it there. Somebody mentioned about, there was a lot of question about whether the stadium, people warming to the idea of a new stadium, mainly because what they'd seen at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, and he did emphasize that, well, that was a totally different kettle of fish, because there was a huge plot of land available in which to develop that stadium and everything that went with it. Whereas at the moment, where we love, and he loves, and the club love, the fact that, as he kept calling it, which is something I must admit makes me cringe now, that phrase, the state, the cathedral on the hill, very much the very fact that where the current ground is located was very important to the club. Very important to those within the club, and also emphasised another interesting point that I'd never ever heard before, which was in the whole of Europe, we're the nearest of any European clubs to a mainline railway station. Oh, well, that was an interesting one. Obviously, somebody's been feeding them a little bit of info, and they're using that as a very much of a plus. But all in all, it was very similar to the conversations and the way that he put himself over the last time he was on, which was just after he came to the club. He's an amiable, warm guy, isn't he? You know, and everybody loves him. And he's the sort of bloke that likes to go out and have a pint with fans. And it comes over as that. But I think he's sharp. I think he's switched on, and I think he's getting a grip of lots of little facets of how the football club's developing, and where the football club's heading to. And I think all those cogs are spinning in his head, and we'll see in the next couple of seasons changes that are being made. I would love to feed the cat. God, she wants to go out. I think I'm going to have to step out and let her out in a minute. It's doing me head in. Go on. I think what we'll find is that with Darren Eales, he'll start to have to make decisions that some of us don't like, some of us are not happy about. I think that the ticketing was the way that he's controlled that was one of them, and I think there are going to be other decisions that are going to be made. He mentioned Champions League and how getting into the Champions League meant that they've had to bring forward plans in terms of executive areas and new seating and having areas that will be available for Champions League executives and various other people that'll come to Champions League games. So that's new. It's something that wasn't around when we were in the Champions League last time. There was more emphasis, I think, placed on it with regard to Champions League, with having places for the press and things like that. If you remember, during the Euros, we had to enlarge the press box. Back in what was it, 96, when the Euros were played there, and that was very much an area that was a UEFA directive. And now I think with the Champions League, it's to do with the number of people, number of delegates that come to Champions League games, number of sponsors that come to Champions League games, because the Champions League, since the last time we were in it, has grown exponentially in terms of the sponsor packages and this type of thing. So I think that again is something that as supporters we're going to have to get used to, and it does show that the demand's going to be there. And I think some of us might be disappointed if areas of the ground are handed over, and that's when these guys are going to start earning their corn. I honestly don't. I don't wish it upon them, but there will be instances where, as I say, the decisions that they're going to be making going forward are decisions that are going to upset supporters.
Steve, can I comment?
Go on, George. Go for it, mate.
Well, the one thing I get from all these interviews that we're getting at the minute, him and the other one the other week, is it Silverstone or whoever it was? They're all very well media trained, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, this tactic of that's a good question. God, I mean, I can remember being told that when I did my major training with the probation service 25 years ago. Yeah. Make the questioner feel comfortable. And that's how you do it. That's a good question. Yeah. Lovely. I like it.
Yeah, they are good. They are well media trained, Mitch, aren't they?
Yeah.
Mm. Yep.
Yeah. People like Darren Eales know what to say.
Makes a big difference to some of the people we've had to deal with in the last 15 years. So, there is that to be said for it. But of course, people who are well media trained are also very good at giving non-answers.
Absolutely.
And we always have to remember that too, without sounding like a miserable old get.
Yeah. Well, lots of chat, but very little information, Neil.
I think the word's party line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Eddie Temple says you nailed it, George. They can be very cringy, which is true.
Yeah.
Tom Dixon asked earlier, what's your thoughts on Newcastle being locked in a bonus dispute with players over Mike Ashley? Craig Hope asked the question today, George. He asked Eddie about this, and the Daily Mail reported that there was a dispute between players and the club over the bonus scheme that Mike Ashley put in place. If you remember, there was a dispute over bonuses. Mike Ashley came in to save the day. The deal that he put them on is all very well when you're finishing 10th and below, but Newcastle finishing 4th last season meant that Newcastle United paid out a hell of a lot in bonuses, and they probably aren't too happy about that and have looked to change it. But it sounded like it was much ado about nothing. It's the first time I've actually heard Eddie in 2 years go and mention Lee's name. So he discussed this with Lee Marshall prior to going on, and he batted it towards Lee and just said, it needs to be, it's not something you need. There's enough going on with that, and from our perspective, it'll be sorted in house. So he fobbed it off back to Lee, but wouldn't really comment on it. And when Craig pushed him and said, "Do you think it'll have an adverse effect on preparations, etc.?" He said, "Well, I haven't seen anything to suggest it has had that." So yeah, I mean, player bonus arguments have happened before and derailed seasons, George, but I don't think that will happen with this lot.
No, I mean, as far back as Joe Harvey, when he was a player, went on bloody strike because of bonuses, and had to be forced back onto the pitch. No, I think, for me, it gets round to being successful and what you want for the club. And if that was the deal, was successful, you get more money, then that's the deal. You've got to live with it, both sides. And if until you renegotiate something, and I think that's what they'll do, they'll come up with a nice solution that suits everybody, and there'll not be any anger and upset like there might have been before. Now, could you imagine what would happen if you're trying to negotiate with somebody like Joe Kinnear in a situation like that? That would be wonderful. I'd like a tape of that now, but that's not going to happen with these people. They're not going to risk what they want most is success for the sake of several £1 million is what we're talking about. I know it's going to be a few million, but really less than probably a cost of it's a reserve player, or less than that even. No, I can't see it upsetting the dressing room to that extent. If it's happened, then it's got to be got rid of, and that's about negotiation from both sides, and that's how I think it'll happen. It'll work.
Player bonuses, it can be a bad issue, Steve, but I think the players will be quite happy, and I'm sure it'll get sorted out. Yeah,
and what you've got to remember is that the bonus scheme is a collective. And we're sitting there, I saw a lot of people going, well, it's just the players that were there under Ashley, for example. It'll not affect Bruno, it'll not affect Tonoli, and etc. So it will, because it's a collective bonus for the squad.
Could that be the issue? Could that be the issue which is holding Bruno back signing his contract?
No, I very much doubt it. I think the issue that'll be there'll be certain additional guarantees that probably an agent is looking for, that type of thing. That's what holds.
Yeah.
The player plays his football and he gets paid, and his agent's there to try and get him the best deal. That's what people forget sometimes with an agent. He's there to get the best deal. A good agent, that is. A bad agent is trying to get a player out because it benefits the agent himself and not necessarily his client. And we've heard that many, many times in the past. I think. But I think what we're looking at is probably not an issue as such. I think it's something that'll just, bearing in mind we're talking about a bonus, we're talking about something that is not going to kick in until the end of the season, or you get to a cup final or something like that, unless there's also crazy things hidden in there. Well, if we get into the next round of the Champions League after qualifying the year before and this type of thing, which I suppose means that, as it could be something that needs to be addressed in December, because that's when that bonus would be due or whatever. And a lot of these things, I mean, we've seen it with Newcastle United on numerous occasions. The player bonuses for the 1974 Cup final, the player bonuses for the 1976 Cup final. There was player bonus issues, I think, when it came to the finals in the 90s as well. Players thinking that the bonuses was there because they got to the final, not because they won it, you know, and you know, expecting there's always little things, and there's always certain players that are not happy, because certain players maybe feel as though they've done an awful lot more to deserve a bonus than somebody else. I think it's nothing for us as fans to worry about. I don't think the lack of an agreement on a player bonus is going to see players moving out of the football club. You know, the only reason players will move from the football club is if the manager of Newcastle United wants them out, you know, or there is an opportunity to move them out, to bring something better in. That's the situation Newcastle United are in now. If players move on, then better players are going to be coming in, and that's something again that we're going to have to start to address as the relative success of the football club starts to mature.
Okay, Mitch, players' bonuses, is this a big issue or not?
It shouldn't be, and for my mind, it's something that should be being kept in-house. So the question I would ask Craig is, what's the journalistic value of asking that question? And secondly, who put you up to asking it?
Yeah.
Because it just seems to be making mischief where there's no need for mischief to be made. Now, is it something that's stopping Hendrick or Hayden moving on? Who knows? We do know that anything that it has historical ties to Mike Ashley always seems to have a complication. And the complication often seems to be his contracts are all incentivised. He loved an incentivised contract. Mm-hmm. So whatever's in there is probably in some ways backfired on the club because they've overachieved. They've done something that Ashley probably thought they never would. And so all of a sudden, somebody in the finance department's going, oh, shit. You know, so, you know, it could be something as daft as that. We know from the Castoria contract, it's overly clunky, has so many moving parts, and we take a smaller amount up front because we get a bigger percentage of the shirts that are sold. And so is that why Castoria throttled the shirt availability? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Because are they making significantly less a shirt for us than they are from Wolves, say, who seem to have no supply issues at all?
Yeah. I think what you can say about Craig, though, is that, you know, I'm not trying to defend him by any stretch of the imagination, but it wasn't Craig that wrote the initial article, but it was in his paper. And perhaps his editor has said, try and get an answer for Joe Keegan or whoever it was that wrote the article, because he's not going to be there, but it's an interesting point. See if you can get an answer. I would like you to push it. It could be something as similar as that, or it could be that the reporter who reported in the first place has said to Craig, see if you can answer my question, can you? Because I couldn't get anywhere. I got no response when I put it and said it was the article was going to go out, and I got nothing from the Newcastle press room. That tends to be the way it works. But you're right.
I thought it was a relevant question to ask because the story was printed. So I thought it was a fair question to ask. There's a guy, I covered it. If you haven't listened to the Eddie Howe press conference review, I covered it. I couldn't tell you who it was who asked the question. I can only presume it was a TV interviewer of some description, but seemed to want to go down the Saudi angle. 3 or 4 questions about Saudi, and it was ridiculous. So I think Craig hopes is a valid question, and he got a valid answer. You know, Eddie gave the answer as best he could. 100%. Okay, we are an hour and a half in. This show has really flown over. Want to try and get through 1 or 2 more questions. There's a couple coming. Luke Bailey, thoughts on the link to Anderson from Crystal Palace. There was another one about a player. Sank, good evening, says apparently Newcastle United explored a deal for Luke Edwards, not Luke Edwards. England under 21 left back, age 22, from Leicester City. And there was another one, I think, about a player. It was Barry Hogan. What did the guys think about us trying to sign Yasser Asprilla? We've already got Tino in the club. Still lots of transfer talk, George. Eddie said this afternoon he would like to see one more in, but we're not close on anything. And from his perspective, they may have to be creative.
Yeah.
So I think we will see another one through the door, George, but nobody close yet.
Well, I think creative is another word for a loan deal, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, or staggered payments.
Yeah. Yes, it would be nice to have another one through the door. And of the names that's been mentioned, the young lad that played for England under 21s, the World Cup, is a good player. I watched a few matches and he looked really, really talented. I was asked about Anderson once before, and the more I look at it, the question is, could Eddie Howe make him fit his agenda and his defensive ideas? And if he could, well, that's fine. It may be a cheap option, a good option to come in. But I agree with you. I think we'll get at least one more, and either a staggered payment thing or a loan deal just to close it off. But it would be healthy, I think, for Champions League and all that sort of thing to have at least one more come into the club.
Steve, those names that have been mentioned, Craig Lee suggesting Tyler Adams because his deal's off. What's your thoughts? Lewis Hall on loan is another one from Dave. What's your thoughts on some of these names? And Asprilla.
Yeah, I've never heard anything about the lad Asprilla. The Lewis Hall one, I think that was put to bed earlier in the week when it said that it was probably Crystal Palace that he was heading at. I think, you know what's happened? I think the form of Elliot Anderson and the form of Lewis Miley has shaken Eddie Howe up a little bit into the point where he goes, you know what? That area that I thought needed filled possibly doesn't. So that immediately goes, well, Tyler Adams is not going to be in our equation. I think he's looking and thinking, I don't need to fill that hole because I've got people there. I've got a fairly flexible squad as well in terms of players that can come in. Joe Willock when he's fit. Where does Joe Willock fit into the midfield? There's all sorts of questions about the lineups tomorrow, which we'll probably get into, and who we think will be coming in. Central defender. Do we need another central defender? Is that the area he's looking at? Are we still looking at a left back? There's some interesting players moved out of the Championship. The lad from Bristol City looks like he's going to Bournemouth. He's more of a midfielder than a fullback. And young Aarons has gone from Norwich City and looks like he's moving. Players that we have been linked with and names have been discussed in the past. I think it's interesting the players that we've already moved on, and there's still players that are going to move out of that squad. That's perhaps where Eddie's saying that we might have to be creative on a different front. Do we need a striker? Do we need a backup striker? Do we need someone to come in? Do we need someone who's not going to be guaranteed first team football or even guaranteed second choice in terms of selection? If Eddie still goes with one striker, and does he play Wilson or Isak, etc., etc.? Do we need someone just in case one of those two, because both of them suffered injuries last season? Do we need someone that comes in that we could rely on? Does that look at somebody like Ched Evans or somebody of that ilk? Is that the sort of player that he's thinking about? It's all very difficult, and I think that it makes it for an interesting few weeks till we get to the transfer deadline. But I don't know where, because he hasn't said it, and I think we've all got an opinion on where we need to fill a gap. But I don't know whether we need a new centre back, whether we need a left back, or whether we're looking for striker. And that's, if he's only talking about one, then two of my choices are going to go out the window anyway, aren't they?
Yeah,
the Bristol City lad is an interesting one because he's unfit. He's not going to be able to play for 6 months.
Yeah. Interesting.
They've, he also was asked, because of the way that we are, do we have to sell another player to bring one in? He said, well, you sell a player, you've got to bring two in. So, he shut that down quite quickly as well. But, I think we'll get another player in, Mitch. I think we've been quite confident of that, haven't we? I think we'll get another player in. If we don't, he said he would be happy with what he's got. There would would have to get by, you know what I mean, in some way, shape or form. But he says if he had one more player, he would be happy. But he said you don't always get what you want, wanting to coin a Rolling Stone song.
Why is everybody crying for centre-back cover? Have you all forgot about Jamal Lascelles, our club captain?
Mm-hmm.
Are you all that disrespectful of our club captain that you're happy to just discard him and write him off?
Isn't that the way now, Mitch? People do just discard people.
Oh yeah.
I think it's a disgrace. I really do. That lad hasn't played many games last season, but did he let us down? Did he look out of place? Within the dressing room, everybody still admires him for his leadership. He's part of the leadership group. And I think everybody's just happy to chuck him on the scrap heap. He's my club captain, for God's sakes. And if he leads the team out tomorrow, I'll be quite comfortable with that. And I don't see why everybody else isn't. Is it me? You know, I'm not talking about if is he Champions League quality. He's certainly Premier League quality. And so we seem to be just saying, right, no, he's no good now. This toy's broken. I want a new one. Is that what we're becoming?
I tell you what else, Mitch. He's a leader, and he could be the bloke who solves the problem that we have with the bonuses. He's the sort of guy who'll go in, he'll talk to the players, he'll talk to the rest of the squad, he'll talk to the club, he'll talk to Darren Eales, he'll talk to Eddie Howe, and he'll come back to the players with an answer. He'll come back possibly with a compromise or a better deal or a new deal. He's that sort of guy, isn't he?
Fully in support of making the squad better.
Yeah.
But I can't wrap my head around everybody's desire to put Trippier or Livramento at left fullback as well when they're both right-footed. It's going to be burn or target. Whether you like that or not, that's what it's going to be. I can't see Eddie doing anything different because that's how it is.
Yeah.
And with that precious that we're getting sort of stoked that I can see arguments already in the chat there about I don't like this one and I don't like that one and you're anti this and you're anti that. And I think we've got a squad who've shown we're together and that they back each other up and that they enjoy playing together. We've got a group of young'uns in. Somebody said about young Alex Murphy. No. Do you know what? When he slipped into that team, he didn't look like he didn't belong in the same way that Miley did. But we're talking about a pre-season friendly going into the Premier League. And it is a different kettle of fish. See, again, shocking for a long time. How many games have you seen him play recently?
You only played what? The stats were there last season. 2 of our 4 defeats, but admittedly against City and Liverpool.
The point I make, we have some players who the more time out of the team they have, they get better. Like Mitrovic. Oh, get Mitrovic in the side. He'll sort the problems out. He needs to be in the side. And we'll get some players who, like Lascelles, the longer they're out the side, they get worse. And we need to make our minds up. And give back the manager who picks the team, back the manager who signs the players. And if he says, I'm happy with going with these centre-backs, we're happy going with these centre-backs. Now, if he makes an almighty blunder and he absolutely fucks something up, I'll be the first on here having a go. But that's how it works. I think I'm seeing judgments made on players before we've even kicked the ball in anger. And that kind of irks us a little bit. It's like, let's go into this season with optimism and positivity that the group of players we have already been improved, and anything else we get on top after what we've signed now is gravy for Eddie. And I think he'll get at least another one in, if not two. And there we go. That for me is my feeling about signings and things like that.
Okay, interesting. Good stuff. Plenty of points. And as we always say, we don't always agree on this show. Want to thank everybody out there, as usual. The latest stats come in. I always share these, whether they're good or bad. 129 new subscribers last month, 206,000 total views, and 3.8 million minutes watched. Thank you very much for your support of the NUFC channel. Big thank you to everybody. And a big shout out to the Heed, who wants to be famous, apparently, according to Stu Penman. I didn't show this yesterday. I thought it was better going out to a bigger audience so the Heed can get some admirers from far and wide. So there you go, mate. It was great to see you both the other day, and I hope you enjoy the match tomorrow, Stuart. Okay, got 20 minutes left, and it is time for Lookalikes.
Have to bring the cat back in.
Yeah.
No, Steve. No, Steve. You don't. The departure of Keith Patterson means there's not as many coming in. People have naturally moved into other areas now, Stephen. This one from Albert. Hasty meets Oppenheimer. That's very good. I shared that photo. I love that photo. I shared it, and then he just adapted your face into it, Steve, as he often does. My God, Hasty's taking his doggy loving to the next level.
Well, see, got to be a dog lover.
Stephen Kennedy, thank you. And this one, Hasty at the soup kitchen from Albert.
Oh my God.
Classic that.
And not a Hasty lookalike, says Stephen Kennedy.
No, it's not. You're right, Stephen. Well done.
One from Jimmy Moore, two lookalike, hydrated Hasty.
Jimmy, man. Jimmy's an oddball, isn't he? You're never too sure what Jimmy's going to put up next.
And this is from Rita. I can't leave Hasty.
Yeah, well, we always know what Rita's going to put up.
The three amigos from Stephen Kennedy. He's got all his dogs.
All dogs.
There's a sombrero. And moving on to the more serious lookalikes. Gus Poy and Mr. Bean from Tom.
Oh, he was there, Mr. Bean.
That's a good one as well.
Yeah, very good.
Gianfranco Zola there, of course. Chris Hughton and Barack Obama.
Wow, yes. Yeah.
Right, that works.
Similar pose. And Peter Crouch and Rodney Trotter. This one just gets reeled out every time. That's a bag.
That's a good one.
I had to look twice at what that was. And Stephen Kennedy. Tony Soprano. And Mitch.
Well, everybody now knows why I get called the dentist, you say.
Yeah. And Harry Redknapp's really gone to seed, says Steve Kennedy.
Oh, dear me.
The Grinch and David De Gea from Bungo.
Yeah, classic.
And Tim Cairns, I wasn't sure who the lookalike he was. Was that supposed to be Keith Patterson? I've got no idea. So you just sent lookalike and then just sent a photo of John Lydon. Mark Magolas and John Justice Allen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good old John.
And Annie and Fred in Coronation Street. Swap that for Hasty and Mitch. You can just see Fred in the mirror.
Oh, Fred G and Annie Walker.
Finally, it's Friday, says Mags Gaz. No harm intended, he says.
No harm meant, he said. Right, Gaz.
JLo at 50 and bloody hell, George from NUFC Matters gets everywhere these days. Me and my 30s. He's assumed the pose.
I'm famous.
Glad to see Mitch and Joe Walker soaking up some rays. I will eat an handicap from Rita. Is this Mr. Hasty after being dropped off at bingo?
Yeah.
And Steve Bruce and Stuart Penman cheering on the Arsenal days at today's match.
Yeah, me. Hey, that is a bit spooky, that, isn't it?
Yeah, good one, that.
Well spotted.
George and Carry On actor Jack Douglas.
Aye, why not?
Right.
Hey.
I've had this a few times. Walter White from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And the winner this week, well done, Chippers. Stu Penman's poo-face selfie.
Oh, poor Stewie. Poor Stewie. Oh.
Cheers, Chippers. That'll cheer Chippers up tonight. Keep your tweets and your two lookalikes coming in. Send them to any of us on Twitter, and we'll feature them on the Okay, Newcastle United take on Aston Villa tomorrow, 5:30 kick-off live on Sky Sports. Don't forget the digital ticketing is launched tomorrow. You should know all about it, and you should be fully aware that you should by now have your ticket on your phone. If you haven't got a ticket on your phone, go on.
And remember what to do if your phone runs out of charge is to make sure your phone doesn't run out of charge.
There we go. So people are advised to get to the ground early, 4:30. Anyone getting in before 4:30 will be entered into a free prize draw to win a shirt. They're also offering money off discount off food and drink if you get in early. So a few incentives to try and get you in earlier. They are asking people to get in sharp though, because they're expecting some kind of delays getting in, with this being the first day the digital ticketing is in operation. If you've got any problems, of course, you must go to the ticket office. It's the only way that you've got a chance of getting in. As far as the team's concerned, well, the good news is, and I did say this last night, Fabian Schär has returned to training. He's been training since Tuesday, and he will be available after sitting out the two friendlies. Emil Kraft, 4 to 6 weeks more to go for him. Joe Willock is sidelined again because of his hamstring. He felt a pull in the hamstring, so his comeback has been put back until the international break, which will be in September. There are possible debuts tomorrow, of course, for Tonali, for Barnes, for Livramento, and we will wait to see in what order they appear. As for Aston Villa, well, Buendia has sustained an ACL, which I mentioned yesterday, and he will be out of tomorrow's game. Of course, he played well against us only a few months back in April when Villa beat us 3-0, and also played well against us in the summer series in America only 3 weeks ago. Ramsey, Traore, Duran, and Moreno are all still missing, as is Rug Bunam. Referee is Andy Madeley, and he had 2 games in charge of Newcastle last season, a 0-0 draw at Arsenal and a 2-1 home victory over Wolves. VAR, well, it's often switched off, as we know, but Simon Hooper is in charge of that. So this is it, George. First game of the season. How do you see this one? How do you see this one going? How do you see Newcastle lining up? What's your overall thoughts?
Well, I'm excited by the whole prospect. I think the back five's a done deal, isn't it? I can't see. The only exception is a Target or Burn at left back. Otherwise, it's status quo. It's Pope. It's on the right side is the usual vice captain, if you like, and then we've got Shaw and our Dutch hero. They pick themselves the back five. So I don't see an issue there. Then when you start thinking about midfield, wow, what an exciting possibility there. The experience says it's Joe Linton, possibly Bruno, and then you think about, well, who's the third one? Is it Tonali? Is it Elliot Anderson? Is it you can go on. Is it Lewis Miley? They can all get in, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm really excited about this game and what does come out, because it will set the poster for the rest of the season, the marker for the rest of the season. And then up front, they all performed very well in America. I mean, I thought Harvey Barnes was up for it. Gordon played out of his skin in the under-21s. And add to that, our talisman on the well, is he on the left side? Is he through the centre? Our centre forward is there, and then you got Wilson, who will he get in? I think he will. I think because he's a favourite of Eddie Howe's. But you can't keep Isaac out? Surely, he's such a talented player. So I'm hedging my bets with all of that, as you can probably gather, because I want to see an exciting game. I want to see a game we win. I think we'll win 2-0. That's how I see it, Steve. But who'll play where, apart from the back five, is going to be an interesting conundrum for everybody. I'm glad it's just Eddie Howe that's got to worry about it.
All right, I'm going to come back to you for a prediction, George. Just to say that Toon Stato will be continuing with us this season. I have got his video. It's just took a little bit more time to load. So I'm going to put Andrea's video up now.
Hello amigos, here we go again, another season and the pick of the stats for the Villa game on Saturday. We only once opened the season against Aston Villa at home back in 1999 when Jura Reni famously sent Shearer off and we lost 1-0. This is only one of the two Aston Villa wins at St James's Park in the Premier League. The second one came back in April 2005 when we got 3 people sent off, Boyer, Dyer and Stephen Taylor. This means that they haven't beaten us when we finished with 11 players since 1989 at St James's Park. Otherwise, the pick of the stats, Callum Wilson has scored 11 goals in his last 12 Premier League games, making him the top scorer in the Premier League for the period, ahead of Erling Haaland and the rest. On the other hand, Unai Emery has started away from home 7 times in his managerial career, and he has won 6 and drawn only once. One of his wins came against Newcastle when he was in charge of Arsenal back in 2019. Aston Villa have not won at St James's Park since that game in April 2005, which is now 15 games, 14 in the Premier League, and in this period we have 9 wins and 6 draws. Last season, in their last game before Emery took charge of Villa, we destroyed them 4-0 at St James's Park, with Callum Wilson scoring a brace, Joelinton scoring his first for the season, and also Miggy Almiron continuing his goal-scoring streak. At home, we have lost only twice last season, and no team lost fewer than us last season overall in the Premier League. We lost only 5 games, but one of the defeats was against Aston Villa. Let's hope for another legendary season and away the lads. Cheers.
Great stuff to have Andre on. Sad news coming from the NUFC matters at Bunker, though sadly Joe has had to move on. Toon Tipster has got a new job. He's been quite quiet on the WhatsApp group as well, but he's moving on. He's got a really good job. He's happy, which is great. He just wants to thank everybody who watches the show for all the support over the years that he's been on, and we just want to wish him well. We will, of course, be keeping in touch with him and looking forward to seeing him and his dad in due course. But enjoy the season, and we'll see you soon, Joe. Thanks for everything you've done.
Absolutely.
Okay, Steve, give us your views on the game tomorrow.
The lads are right. I mean, it's Mitch mentioned it earlier. It's Dan Bird or Target, and the rest of the back four picks itself. I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to ask it. I'm not going to come up with a statement. I'm going to ask a question. When was the last time Bruno had a good game for her? And I love Bruno, by the way. But when was the last time he had put in a good performance? He played most of the second half of the season with an injury. We know that. Then he got sent off. He missed some key games. He came back. He didn't really set the world alight. And I think that could be an interesting conundrum for for Eddie. He didn't come back again until later than everybody else because there was the extended break for him and Joe Linton in Brazil because they were playing on international duty. He didn't play every international game either. Does that say that his place is under jeopardy? Possibly. What I think Eddie Howe will do, however, I think he'll go with what he knows in terms of last season. And I think he'll challenge those players that were here last season to show that they deserve to keep the shirt and let them know that there are new signings that have come in on big money. And if they don't pull up their socks and if they don't carry on performing in some cases or don't start to perform a little bit better than they did towards the end of the season, their players will be in jeopardy because those lads are breathing down their neck. That's why I think up front he might go for Isak and Wilson because I think it's very difficult to drop them both. I think Almiron on the right hand side. I can see Isak playing on the left, and I can see Wilson down the middle. Alternatively, it's the choice between one and the other. And Eddie did choose between one and the other. And he always said towards the back end of the season that he wanted to see how he could get them both on the pitch at the same time. We did see it through substitutions last season when we were chasing games. That leaves that central three, doesn't it? Anderson's pulled up tremendously well. He's filled out. He looks strong. He's really, really put the graft in. Sean can play that holding midfield role and did admirably well last season. But I can't see Sean and Anderson being there in the midfield. Has Tonali done enough in the season to start? He's a big money signing. And then Joe Linton. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Joe Linton, a Bruno, and a Longstaff midfield with changes being made quickly if people aren't performing. And then that gives the opportunity for the Tonolis in this world to be bedded in and to just sample the atmosphere in the ground for the first couple of games. But if things aren't going right, they're there on the bench to come in. And unfortunately for us, Willock's not available. So maybe fortunately for Eddie, because that's another little cog that he has to work into as we go. I'd love to think that there might be a midfield of Tonali, Bruno, and Joe Linton, and they start to dominate, and everybody else is fighting. But you know what? I think Barnes will be on the bench, and I think that he might go for the two strikers with Isak as a striker, but playing slightly wide on the left.
Interesting. Mitch, how do you think they'll line up tomorrow?
I think Eddie's got a fantastic set of dilemmas on his hands, and I think he's enjoying every minute of it. This is exactly the kind of problem a manager wants. We've got effectively the three midfield and three forward positions, and you've got so many potential combinations you could put in who are playing well. Mm-hmm. And you could put an argument for every single one of the players being picked. Anderson seems to have really shown that he's got the potential to really grow this season already.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me to see him in the starting lineup, but at whose expense? Gordon's had a great close season with the under-21s, so you could make a case for him going in. Isaac or Wilson, what a real problem. a delightful problem. I don't think he'll play both. I think it'll be one or the other. Miggy's started scoring goals from the right-hand side again. Again, you can argue for him going in, but Murphy's contributed. So you'd even make an argument for him to come in on the right-hand side. So, fantastic challenge for Eddie. And exciting for us that we've got real game changers on the bench. And I think Villa will suffer for missing Budena, because he, I think, was the key to them countering us last season.
Yeah.
And I think yes, they've made signings, but I think they've lost a very key player to the way they play in him. And yes, we've got a hard start. I don't see that as a threat. I see it as an opportunity. 3 games off the bounce, and kick the door down and say, hey, do you remember us from last season? Well, we're still here because you've all written off. And so what a fantastic way to start the season this is. It's an opportunity, not a threat. It's an opportunity to lay some markers down and remind everybody that we're still around and going nowhere. And it will be very good to batter Villa tomorrow. I don't think we'll batter them. I think it might actually be quite a close game, but I think we should take it personally.
And you know what else, Mitch, that we're people forgetting about? One of the things that I always criticised Eddie Howe for was, and I think rightly so in the early days, was his game management, his management of the people on the bench. He did seem to have favourites that came on, but I think as supporters, we're starting to learn that there's 7 or 8 or 9 people around on the bench. There's 5 can come on, and that's what Eddie's going to learn over the because he's got quality, and the options that it's going to give him are absolutely brilliant. Because if it no longer would we see a player being substituted, hopefully in the 85th minute because he's had a bad game, we might see him being substituted in the 55th minute because he's having a bad game, or he's not performing in the way that Eddie wanted him to. So that's the sort of thing that I think as supporters we're going to have to get used to. And maybe as supporters, we need to forget about the first 11, the first choice, as though it's some sort of panacea. We move away from that. It's now a squad game, and that's something that we've got to balance out, and we've got to appreciate. Just because a player is not selected on Saturday doesn't mean that he won't be selected the following Saturday or for a midweek fixture. It's a learning curve for us all, and it's how he manages his bench that's going to have a big say going forward for the rest of the season.
Isn't this a wonderful dilemma we've got? I mean, I went through my analysis, and I didn't even mention Sean Longstaff. But once Steve mentioned it, I thought, well, yes, he could easily be in this team as well. So what a series of dilemmas Eddie Howe's got. But what great for us as fans to see what comes out and what the overall result will be. And I think it'll be fantastic. You're going to enjoy a great match. I'm convinced of that. 2-0.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with you on that. What's your prediction, George?
2-0.
You're going 2-0. Okay. Steve?
2-1.
2-1. And Mitch, get the dice out.
I have the dice. And the dice says 3-0.
Oh, 3-0.
Wow.
That would make me priapic. Yes.
Unbelievable that. I seem to have frozen. I've gone into some kind of dimension which I don't know how to solve, but we've come to the end of the programme. Luke, great stuff. He says, great show, lads. Stay positive, peace and love. Mark Byers, I didn't get to your question, Mark. Ask that one again on another show and we'll come to it. Maybe ask it next Friday and we'll come to that particular question. Great show. Thanks to everybody for watching. Over 520 watching, I think, tonight in the chat. So that was great. Big thanks to George. Big thanks to Steve. Big thanks to Mitch. Enjoy the game. Me and Mitch are back 11 a.m. with Stu Penman for the professionals. Look forward to seeing you all then. Take care, lads.
Thanks
Take
for the
care,
love,
everyone.
everybody. Thanks for the
Away the
love.
lads.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.